Hey, this is probably going to go on YouTube later, so you get to see me sitting here awkwardly until people show up. So I want to welcome everyone. So I'm doing a 7-day manifestation challenge. So just 7 days of talking about manifestation, mindset shifting, things like that. Welcome, Kelsey. Welcome, Lacey. Today is day one, setting a powerful intention. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that. If you have anything to share, please do in the comments. So that would be great. I might repeat myself a couple times on here as people come in. So it's good to see you, Kelsey. Welcome. So I'm going to talk about setting a powerful intention. So I want to start a little bit talking about what I mean by manifestation and how I got into that. So manifestation is a term related to what's called the law of attraction. Now that's kind of a spiritual term. I know it's considered new age, but I just consider manifestation just the idea of attracting something or someone into your life. And it's not magic. I don't believe it's magic. I don't, even the spiritual stuff, like I'm cool with all that, but I don't have to believe in that to believe that it's a thing, right? So I got into this, so probably, let's see, I gotta get my dates right, because when I write books, I put the exact dates in there, so I want to be accurate. Around 2009, a friend of mine started getting me into this. Like, it was fascinating because he's like this really cool guy, fun guy, like he was like, every time I go into coffee shops, I get free coffee. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I just managed to get free coffee. I kind of manifest free coffee. I'm like, what do you mean by that? And he was just talking about kind of what he meant by things like that. And I saw it in action. Like he would just go in and, people would just be always wanting to be around him, always offering him like gifts and stuff. And so we kind of talked about it and he explained to me kind of what he meant by that. And that kind of got me down this path of, the idea that my destiny is in kind of my control, like what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, my internal reality can influence what's going on out there. Now, again, I'm not saying magic, I'm not saying anything like that, but what's going on inside my head internally can absolutely change what's going on externally, is what I'm getting at. And that's what I mean by manifestation. Like I said, you can believe it spiritually, that's fine. Maybe when you set an intention, you send it out there, and maybe that's the case. But I think even at a more simple level, right, it just is that when you show up a different way, your life changes, right? So, like, let me just give you a quick example. I work with people sometimes who've been in unhealthy relationships and are struggling to heal with that, right? And when you've been in that relationship for a long time, your internal reality changes. Like you may have gone into that unhealthy, toxic relationship. You may have gone in like trusting and joyful and things like that, right? But when you leave it, you've been so stuck in that reality for so long, you might not believe in yourself. You might not be joyful. You might see the world in a totally different way, in a dark way. You might see yourself in a very negative, dark way. And that's obviously going to change how you show up in the world, which means, you might be walking by and you might see someone that would make a great partner, right? But you don't talk to him. You don't smile at him. You don't even make eye contact because you don't believe you're worthy, right? Now, these are just examples on a day-to-day basis of how if we show up a certain way, then we're going to manifest that in our life, right? So, and I've seen that in action. Like, I'm not saying any of this to brag because, I'm more saying it to not only say that you can do this, but also to express my gratitude for, what's happened over the last, 10 to 13 years. I think it's around 13 years now. So ever since I've kind of changed my mindset, or believed even that my mindset, the way I think can change my reality. My life has changed like 180 degrees. 180 degrees. When I first started getting into this, my thought was, I used to always say it's like Christmas every day. I used to look forward to Christmas. As a child, and maybe you don't celebrate Christmas, that's fine, but I used to love Christmas. Like, I would wake up so excited that day. And after changing my mindset and doing some of the things that I'm going to talk about this week, I still say it. Every day is kind of like Christmas. Like, you can wake up every day and just start to, you can wake up and know that something cool is going to happen in your day, right? And since that time, I have been on TV, I've been on the radio, I've been in news articles, like I've worked with reporters from different, like the New York Times. Well, that's my brother, actually. I work with Boston Globe, Chicago Tribune, Men's Health, all kinds of things. I've been in a commercial, I've taken acting lessons, I lost weight and kept it off me, all kinds of things. And I don't say that to like brag, not at all. It's just to say that if you can change what's going on inside you, your reality will change. I promise. I promise you that. My life's a testament to that. My brother's life's a testament to that. My friends, we all believe in this. And again, you don't have to believe it's magic. I'm not even saying, like, if you do have a spiritual background, that's great. But if you don't, you don't have to. I don't even know what I believe spiritually. I was raised pretty religious. But now I just don't know. Like, I really hope that someday there's something out there. It'd be nice if there is some sort of force out there that we can tap into. But even if you don't believe that, you can still change your reality. So I want to talk about setting a powerful intention today. And if you're interested, by the way, in getting a replay of this or the information that I share on here, in my bio I have a way to sign up to get the emails related to this. If this is something that interests you. And then this live will be posted on probably on YouTube later with some of this information. So the first step in manifesting is you got to have a powerful intention. You got to have this intention that you can then focus on to get the thing that you want. Now, when I work with clients, what I find sometimes is that the hardest part of our session, believe it or not, is especially when they first come to me. And I'm a hypnotist, by the way, for those that don't know. I do hypnosis. I work with clients for using hypnosis and other practices. But so it's fascinating because usually in the first session, in fact, this happened the other day. I was working with a smoking client. I said, imagine yourself a year from now and you've quit smoking. I want you to just tell me what that's going to feel like. Tell me all the good things that are going to be happening if you quit smoking. And, he really couldn't come up with anything. It was fascinating because I was like, no, well, tell me what's going to be great in your life. Like you're going to wake up and tell me how your experience is going to change once you quit smoking. Now, in my mind, I knew all the changes that were going to happen. He's going to save thousands of dollars. His doctor is going to tell him, you made a great decision because his health was declining. He's not going to have to go outside and smoke all the time at his girlfriend's house. Right? I could come up with all these great feelings he's going to have when he stops smoking, but he couldn't come up with any of that. And that's what I see a lot when I work with clients. And my twin brothers are on here too. Welcome, Jonathan. And we work together as hypnotists. So the first thing when you want to set an intention is you got to imagine yourself a year from now, like something that you really want. Like maybe it is a better job. Maybe it's a great relationship. Maybe it is happiness. Maybe it's a new car, whatever it is. Maybe it's just wealth or starting your own business. So think a year and ahead, like what it is that you would really love to be doing, just something. And if you're like most people, if you've been stuck for a long time or sad for a long time or you've worked a job you can't stand for, let's say, years, if you're like most people, it might even be hard to come up with that scenario because your mind's going to immediately say, well, I'm not worthy to get a new job. I'm not good enough. That's too much work. I tried that before and it doesn't work, right? But that's just your past kind of creeping in and sending you automatic thoughts based on the reality you've already lived in. So the first step of getting a powerful intention is just figure out what it is that you really would want. So just imagine yourself a year out from now and just think about the life you would love to be living. And think about it in a in the moment type way. Like you're actually there. Just imagine how great it would feel, for example, to not have to even worry about, where your money is going to come to pay the bills. Or imagine what it would be like to be, going to the movies or going out to dinner with that great partner. Or, when you say something that you just say something random, they actually understand you rather than putting you down like maybe your past partners do. Whatever it is, just put yourself a year out and just think of what it is you would really love. Like really, truly love. Maybe it's a great partner. Like I said, maybe it's a better job. Whatever it is, it could be anything. I actually did this, and I tell the story in my book, The Art of Hypnotic Manifestation, which I'm going to bring up here in a second because I'm going to quote from it. But I actually manifested moving to a new town, and the story is in the book. But that's what I wanted. Like I was about an hour and a half away from my family, most of my friends, and I visited a town where I currently live, by the way. I visited this town. I'm like, this would be a perfect town for me because it is, it's close to my family, it's close to my friends, it's close to the city, but not in the city. It's in the country enough that it feels like it's small town, but it's big enough that it has a bunch of things going. I'm like, this would be the perfect town for me to live in. And at the time, hey, what's up, man? Good to see you. I'm doing a manifestation challenge the next few days. I don't know if you knew that. I'm actually talking about me moving here. Remember? I don't know if you remember that. Remember, I was trying to manifest moving to this town. Do you remember that? I actually did, remember? And it's fascinating because I ended up here. I don't know if you remember that. You probably do. Yeah, because we were sitting. So it's fascinating that my good friend and colleague, Josh Wagner, came on because, yes, I was just going to say that. So we were sitting, for those that can't, for the replay here, he just mentioned we sat at Starbucks, and we did. So we were sitting outside the Starbucks in the town I currently live in, and I was saying, I really want to live here, and I'm going to manifest living here. And what's fascinating is that I was a teacher at the time, and the subject that I taught is a religious subject, and there was only 2 jobs in this entire county of 100,000 people that I could have taken. Literally 2 jobs, not 2 open jobs, 2 total jobs in the entire county, okay? And they were already filled by other teachers, obviously. And a couple months later, this job that I ended up getting actually came open. And what's fascinating, too, is I actually ended up knowing people at the school who I actually ended up knowing people at the school, which was fascinating because I had no connection to that school. And then I looked up the principal and the minister, and I was like, I know these people. And so it's crazy. So within months, I was in this town. And I mentioned that in my book. Let me pull that up here. I just wrote this book. But yeah. Well, April, that's a good question. How do you know what opportunity to take? So for me, it was this is kind of complicated, but the way I kind of view it is I look for whatever opportunity, I look at an opportunity and I'm like, is this the next right thing to do? Is kind of how I look at it, right? So obviously in this case, I was intentional about moving to this town, and that came open. So that was a no-brainer on that. I'm like, I've got to take this because obviously in this case it was very clear. But one of the things I've started doing, and this has changed my life dramatically, is I have tried to just do what I know is authentic in the moment. Rather than calculating out to the future, if an opportunity presents itself to me that I know is something I would authentically want to do next, I will look into it. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to take it. It doesn't mean I'm going to get it, right? It just means I'm going to look into it and explore it because there's a reason that's in front of me. Now, it doesn't always work out, but that's kind of how I know. So the way I operate, if I'm not operating in the best way I can, is I will do all this calculation in my head. I would like to get this. This sounds cool, but what if in 20 years it doesn't work out? That's how my brain works. And I found that is not a good way to do things. A good example might be if you want to go on a date with someone, for example, instead of saying, you know what, this person seems cool, I'm just going to give it a try. A date's fun. I'm going to go out with them and give it a try, get to know them, right? But my view would be, well, wait a minute. I don't know. Could I be with this person in 10 years? Is this person going to, I'm calculating all these things in my head. And by the time I've done that calculation, I've literally missed the opportunity that's right in front of me, right? So it's always important to remember that, if it's in front of you and it's authentic, explore it, see what happens, right? Because we're always free to explore something different, right? You have 2 paths in front of you and not sure which way to take. Well, is there a way you could take, I don't know what it's about, obviously, if it's like a committed relationship, you can't take both paths. But in some cases, I've tried to take, both. For example, I've had, that job, for example, I took here that got me here, I don't work at that job anymore. So I kept continuing to build my business while I took that job. I didn't make it an either or. I chose both, actually, because I'm like, I can do both. This job is great. It's an opportunity for me now, but it doesn't mean it's going to be an opportunity for me in a year or 2 years. So I ended up working that job for 4 years. Like I said, it was great. But then I moved on to something else because then that presented itself. And in that moment, it was like, oh, yeah, this is the opportunity that's now in front of me. So you might be able to even kind of do both. And that really is what abundance is when you think about it. Abundance is having all kinds of opportunities at us. So when you have abundance, when you're truly taking an abundant mindset, then having multiple paths is actually a good thing. To say, wow, I have two very cool paths that I can take, isn't that amazing? And maybe, like I said, you could find a way to take both. Now, if you can't take both, I think you just want to go with the one that I think seems the most authentic to who you really are, to like who you are at like a integrated level. So what I mean by that is sometimes, we take jobs based on, oh yeah, this is what my parents expect of me, or yes, I have to pay my mortgage, do this, do that, even though at the end of the day, maybe that's not what makes you happy. I, for example, downsized houses a couple of years ago, which actually allowed me to leave my day job and start my own business. So I kind of concluded that, maybe that wasn't what I wanted. Like I didn't, like, I don't, like, yeah, a big house is kind of nice, but I concluded, I don't need that big house. I only hang out in 2 rooms in my house anyway in that big house. So I concluded I'd be happier doing something else, Well, good. Awesome. Well, good luck with that. So the second thing, so once you've established like what your intention is, the next thing you do, and I'm going to read this is from my book. This is called the Manifestation Maxim, and I came up with this because this summarizes what manifestation is to me. You're kind of boiling down manifestation to a principle. This is what it is change your internal reality and then externalize your internal reality in every present moment. And what that just means is you've got to shift who you are inside, and then you have to take an action that puts that out there, and you have to do that as much as possible, like in every moment possible. And that's the formula that I've found that works for me. So it is, again, change your internal reality, externalize it in some way by doing something, and then do it as many moments as possible. So and the reason I defined it this way is because I've seen the kind of hang-ups that people who try to manifest have. And usually here are the hang-ups. Usually it is, they're really good at visualizing or imagining a future, but they're not very good about doing something about it. So if you just have this wonderful, rich visualization of your future in your head, but you never do anything about it, well, that's called a fantasy. That's not really manifestation. So if it's all in your head, nothing's going to change out there. So you could be the most abundant, happy, you could have a wealth mindset in your head, but if you never do anything about it, you're never going to attract wealth. So you have to take that internal reality and you got to externalize it. Now, a lot of people are really good at doing things, but they're not really, but their mindset, their internal reality is their old mindset. So they're always taking action, but they're not taking action that is aligned with their new goal. And that's why you also have to change your internal reality. So those are the pitfalls that I see. People who do not change their internal reality and keep doing the same thing over and over again, which then brings the same result. Or people who change their internal reality but don't show up differently within the flow of time. So you have to do both. Change your internal reality to something new and then show up differently as much as possible. And the reason I say as much as possible is because that's how you manifest. So it's not about, for example, meditating for 5 minutes. It's not about, let's say, meditating about being loving for 5 minutes. It's about doing that and then showing up as loving in as many chances as you can, in as many present moments. So it's kind of complicated how I view it. My book kind of outlines it, but I kind of believe like the present moment is kind of the canvas of manifesting, essentially. The present moment is the only canvas we have to manifest. So if I manifest, let's say I want to manifest $1,000 in a month. This is where it starts. This is where it happens. So I can't just say, well, I'm going to hope $1,000 pops into my life in 2 months. You can't. It doesn't work that way. You have to live the wealth mindset now, literally even right now. And I even say like right now. Now, being on this live is good because I'm positive, I'm growth oriented, I'm building you up, I'm getting you to think like you can do it, right? But let's say instead of watching this, you were watching, let's say, a negative TikTok or someone who was getting you all angry and worked up, right? That's just an example. Right now, like a lot of people I know who are trying to change, their mind says, I will act loving in a month once my divorce goes through or something. Or I will act confident when everything works out and everything lines up. But it doesn't work that way. You have to start right now. Like if you want to be wealthy, it starts today. If you want to be happy, it starts today. If you want to manifest a great partner, it starts today. It starts how you show up. So the minute you walk outside and are walking around wherever you're walking, you got to start looking around. You got to start becoming aware. You got to start being that person now, because whatever's going to happen in a year, the process began right now. In fact, in my book, I even mentioned that I started manifesting my current girlfriend like over a decade ago, because it was literally the confidence work that I did back when I first started getting into manifestation. It was literally that work that allowed me to meet her. I would never have met her if I didn't do that work back then. So you could say that present moment back then, it didn't seem like a big deal to me. I wasn't thinking, oh, I want to meet an amazing girlfriend, but that work I did then is what actually started that process. So that's important to remember. And it's good to see you, Lacey. Welcome. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I like this. My daughter made this shirt for me, so it's pretty special. So to set a powerful intention, you got to do those two things. You got to change your internal reality and show up differently, right? So here's what I recommend doing. Now, if you're interested in getting this in a written form, you can go to my bio. You can sign up for the emails. I'm going to send an email every evening summarizing what we talked about. So here's what I recommend doing if you want to set a powerful intention. You can write this down. You just set your intention. Like, I want to manifest blank. I want to manifest business success. I want to manifest a great relationship. And then you put by showing up as after that. So I want to manifest a great business opportunity by showing up as someone who is authentic and confident, or showing up as someone who can network with anyone, or someone who, I don't know, whatever it is. So there's two components. You list what you want to manifest, and then how you're going to show up in that moment. Because so a lot of people who talk about manifestation, they always say, imagine that you've already achieved the outcome. But see, I don't think it works that way. I think you have to imagine you are the type of person who is going to achieve the outcome. You have to become that person, because if you've achieved the outcome, like let's take, for example, someone who's like, well, I want to become rich, and they think about sitting on the beach, right? Sipping drinks or something. Sitting on the beach and sipping drinks has nothing to do with becoming rich. I guarantee no one who ever got rich said, I'm going to become good at sitting on the beach and sipping drinks, and that is my ticket to wealth. No one said that. No one said that. Now, maybe if you sell drinks on the beach, or maybe you you haul sand or something, or you explore the ocean or whatever, might not be a good time to bring that up. But then maybe you will manifest by thinking about you sitting on the beach. But thinking about sitting on the beach, enjoying a drink, that's not the internal shift that's going to make you wealthy, right? And the same with imagining you're going to be sitting on a couch watching a movie with your soulmate. That's not how you get into relationships with your soulmate. You get into relationships with your soulmate by showing up differently, right? By becoming loving, by becoming confident, by being the person that can walk into a room and talk to anyone, or being the person who walks with your head up and is actually paying attention to people around you, right? That's the type of person who's going to end up with a soulmate. Because so a lot of people, you've probably seen it, they walk into a room and their head's down, they're staring at their phone, right? Their soulmate could be right in front of them. They're not going to notice it. They're going to be staring at their phone. They might be arguing with their toxic ex on their phone, while their soulmate's like standing right there, right? So becoming the person who is going to manifest a soulmate means you need to become the person whose eyes are open, whose phone's in your pocket while you're interacting with people. Especially if you hate dating apps, that's the way to do it, right? So to set that powerful intention, I'll repeat it again. Just say something like, to manifest blank, I want to manifest blank by showing up as blank in as many present moments as possible. Well, good, Lucky Spin. I did too. It's funny. I actually lost that ability for a while, believe it or not. And that's something I worked to gain back. That is something that came back to me when I first started getting into a lot of the stuff I'm talking about. Because especially when I was a kid, I would I would go to tables and talk to people. I was like the life of the party. My brother and I both were, And I don't think he's on here anymore. Josh Wagner was on here. Like I said, good friend, fellow hypnotist. He got me into a lot of this. And part of it, he was very helpful in that. Hey, good. Yeah, I was just saying about, you got me back into that mindset of being able to talk to anybody and getting that. Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm getting at here. So when you set your intention, it's not just about the outcome. It's about the intention to show up differently in as many moments as possible. And like I said, it's got to be an it's got to be now. It can't be I'm gonna do these things once everything works out. It has to be now. In fact, I'll let you in on a little secret. This actual challenge was me doing this, right? Oh, a green leaf. Well, I'm not anti green leaf at all. I'm not. I'm not. But I have seen that happen quite a bit. That can put people in a shell kind of at times in their own world. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not critical of that, but I have seen that happen. So, but I'll even say I'm only doing this because I'm following my own advice. Okay. Because I know how my brain works if I'm not careful. I will put something out until the moment is perfect. I will put it out in the future. So if I want to do something, I won't do it. I will wait till the moment is right. And guess what? The moment's never right. So I have all these great ideas that come to my mind and they never get done because my brain starts criticizing my idea. So I did this 7-day manifestation challenge because I'm like, you know what? It sounded like a good idea and I'm not going to put it off. I'm going to actually do it. Because see, this is how things happen, right? If I want a better life, I have to do something now, right? Same with everyone on here. If you want a great relationship, you have to change your internal reality right now. It has to happen immediately. I mean, not at this exact second, but it could. I mean, I would not be offended if you got off this live right now and messaged someone, right? If you're looking for a great relationship, or got off here and meditated, or got off here and exercised, whatever it is. But you have to show up in that moment. And that's why when you set your intention, I think it's good to mention both of those things, to mention what your outcome is, but also how you're going to show up. In fact, there's research in terms of motivation, that just being motivated to get the reward is actually not good enough for you to be motivated to do it in terms of your brain's dopamine systems. You actually have to find some sort of meaning in the actual process in order to be motivated to get the outcome. So just saying, for example, I want to sit on the beach and enjoy cocktails is not going to be enough motivation for you to start your business. There has to be some part of the process that you find meaningful and enjoyable. And that could be all kinds of things, of course, right? Like maybe you, I know for me, I do like to write, but I can put writing off. So I will just go to a coffee shop, put headphones in and start writing. That's what makes it meaningful to me. So I know how to make the process meaningful, right? And if you can do that, then you'll start to move toward manifesting what you want. Well, guys, I hope this has been helpful to you. If you're interested in getting email summaries, also I'll link to the video of this. I'm going to upload it later. You can go to my bio. There's a way to sign up. Also, I did mention my new book. It has some of this stuff in here, not all of it, but some of it. It's called The Art of Hypnotic Manifestation. Now, it's only available in Kindle at the moment, but I am going to it is going to be released on in a print copy fairly soon, probably within the next month. So, The Art of Hypnotic Manifestation. And I hope you guys got something out of this. And remember, we can do new things. We can. I am an example of that. My good friend, Josh Wagner, who's on here maybe still, is a great example of that. Same with my brother. I mean, again, I feel like I'm a missionary here, but I am, because it has changed my life. Hey, welcome, Happy to Be Alive. I love the name. Great name. It has changed my life. Changing your internal reality, even when your brain is telling you, no, you can't. You're not good enough. Why bother? That's just your old brain wiring coming out. Keep that in mind. Your brain is just repeating the things it's learned in the past is all it's doing. And as we get older, and I'm getting older too, right? I turned 45 a month ago, almost exactly a month ago. So I'm getting older too, right? But as you get older, your brain gets stuck more and more, right? Because you've had more and more habits to get stuck into. Like when you're a kid, your brain's very neuroplastic. It hasn't wired to have any sort of sense of self, any sort of sense of this must be reality. Now, the older you get and the more you've repeated the same things over and over again, especially if you've repeated things that have kept you stuck, that is the reality to your brain, which means your brain is going to resist a lot of new realities, a lot of new understandings of things. But that's not real, right? So I always give the example. Before I started getting into what I'm talking about now, it was a struggle for me to go to the gym. It was a struggle. I would go, but the habit I developed was to not go. But after doing this, now my habit is to actually exercise and go to the gym. In fact, I have to be careful because I will go too much if I'm not careful. I have to be very careful because I can overdo it. But that just shows you that your reality, what your reality is, can change over time. You know, had you grown up in a home, for example, where you were, for example, loved or supported, or, you know, maybe if you weren't, or maybe if you had grown up in a home where you were given good guidance about relationships, maybe you wouldn't have ended up in bad relationships. That would, the normal for you would to be trusting and be in healthy relationships, right? But if you were not modeled that, maybe the norm in your brain is to be in unhealthy relationships. And maybe now when you go to, you know, try to meet someone, maybe your brain sends you those old signals. It sends you the signals that, you know, maybe you're not good enough for someone who's nice. So whatever it is, it could be anything. But just remember, that's your old brain wiring coming out. You know, by creating a new intention, by changing your internal reality, by doing the things I'm talking about, you are challenging that old reality and starting to create that new reality. Well, I'm glad you got something from it. Happy to be alive. I appreciate that. I appreciate your feedback there. So guys, have a great afternoon. I'm actually working on another book, by the way. I'm going to give you an exclusive preview of this. It's called Hooked on Heartbreak. Actually, I don't have the preview up. I'll do it another day. I had the cover. I started to design the cover, but yes, it's called Hooked on Heartbreak. It's going to be a book about breaking your addiction to someone toxic. That's the next book, and that should be ready soon too. It's completely written. It's just a matter of getting it out. Well, thank you, Kelsey. I appreciate you saying that. Remember, guys, if you want to get email updates and replays, check out my my bio. There's a way to sign up for that, and I also send out information about the new book at some point too. So, guys, have a great afternoon. I appreciate y'all coming in. Bye.